What's up, everybody?
Good afternoon.
Hey, hey, Ron, you're here already.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Nice to finally see you live after all the times we chatted on the phone.
Yeah, I know. I know. We're always on the phone, so nice to talk to you live. Thanks for coming.
Same here. You hear me all right?
Yep,
Everything good on the audio end? Nice. All
yep.
right.
Hey, everybody, can y'all hear us good? Let's see. Trying to, trying to fix mine. Hey, what's up, Hakeem? Hey, Jazz. All right. Okay, we'll just give a couple minutes just to let people come in.
Sounds good. I'm gonna slam the rest of my espresso then.
Okay.
Perfect. You guys are gonna get it great. Whatever we're talking about, it's gonna go much better that I finish that.
Yeah, yeah, do whatever you need to do.
I told you guys, hey, I told you guys I got a new shirt. Just check out my shirt. It's got these little like white stripes in it and stuff. So oh, hold on, let me bring it back up. See, it's got like little white threading and such not looking pretty sharp. I don't know. I want to make sure you guys saw that on the video there. All right. I didn't want you guys to be denied the joy of my brand new John Varvato shirt.
It looks nice. It looks nice. Let me just retweet
What?
this on Twitter really quick. All right.
And I can't even, you know what? I'll do the same. Hold on.
All right.
Throw this on here and then you have no idea how nervous I was, Bees.
No need to
Not
be
about being on
nervous.
camera. Well, hold on. Not about being on camera. I'm not nervous about that at all. I do that
Yeah.
all the time. I'm like, oh man, I've never done an IG live before. I'm gonna screw it up. All these people are gonna be waiting, and I'm gonna mess it up.
Yeah. Instagram Live is pretty simple. It's like so straightforward. So it's hard to mess it up. So I was telling Stephanie, I was like, oh no, it'll be fine as long as the app is open. There's no way to mess it up.
You have no idea about my ability to mess technical things up, Bees, do you? You have no idea.
Let's see.
Capital.sb bounce out. So how's everything going in your neck of the woods?
Everything's good over here. So just working and staying focused. That's it. That's it. What about you?
Just working, same thing. You know, I'm behind most days, but I'm grateful because I remember the days when nobody wanted to talk to me and nobody cared. Those days were a long time ago, but lately it's been crazy. So
Right.
I'm gonna get caught up over the holidays and
Yeah.
tomorrow. Such not.
Sorry. All right. Yeah. So that's good to hear. So I think we have enough people in here. What's up, Madhu? Hey, everybody. Try to wave at people. But yeah.
After
So
doing this now I'm gonna be doing one of these.
you're
So
gonna do one?
I might. I might have you on mine.
All right. Yeah.
I
Let's
will have
do
you
it.
on mine.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So okay, so we're going to get started. All right, this is another Finance Friday. Thanks everybody for coming out and joining us again. Um, Today I'm going to have Ron Caruthers on, and I just want before we get started, if you're not familiar with life insurance or anything financial literacy related, check out my book, Financial Starter Kit. You can find it on Amazon or you can find it on my website, financialstarterkit.com, and my link is in the bio. So yeah, Ron, can you just give everybody just an overview about who you are, what you do, and all the greatness that you do, and all the different people?
Well, you know, I was speaking of financial literacy. First of all, I have your book and it's awesome because I grew up in a financially illiterate house. And my parents, by the way, my parents were great. Like my dad took care of my mom. My mom's set for life. Their house is paid for. But we never talked about money. And so I was my high school's valedictorian, which it was a long time ago, so nobody cares, except that I didn't have any money to go to college. And we were not no shoes poor, but we were used pinto poor. Have you ever even seen a pinto bees?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Look it up when we're done. For any of you guys that know what a Pinto is, it's like the second ugliest car known to man. You do not buy one because you're rolling in cash and this is the car that you're choosing. And the gas tanks used to explode on them. If you'd get rear ended, the whole car would explode. And
Oh,
as a
I heard
kid,
about
that's what
that
I
car.
rode. So anyway, since I couldn't afford to go to college right away, then what I ended up doing was working for a couple of years, going back to school to be both a CPA and a certified financial planner. And that's where my interests lie. And so I've just spent a lot of time reviewing tax laws and financial laws and trying to make finances simple for friends, family, clients, and helping them understand. And one of the things that you and I started chatting about was kind of the way that wealthy used life insurance
Mhm.
in a way that most people don't understand, particularly if they grow up reading Dave Ramsey or anything like that. So, what I actually do day to day in my office goes way beyond just that. But it is something that I know you wanted to chat about today. So, that's my background. Tell me what we're chatting about.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about life insurance first, just so we can give people an idea of, what it is, how you can use it, the different kind of life insurance. I think like, I've been talking about universal life insurance and how the wealthy use it to become even more wealthy. And, I get a lot of pushback from people, but, it's true. Wealthy people do use it to become wealthier. And I mean, I think that most people, if you've already taken care of, you invest in your 401k, you have an emergency fund, stuff like that. I don't see why people can't have a universal life insurance plan either on their kids or on themselves if they're not too old. So if you can just like talk about different ways people can use them and just what they are, so people understand just life insurance in general.
Okay, so life insurance in general, the concept actually came. A lot of people don't know this. The actual concept of insurance came from shipping companies in the 14 and 1500s. And what it was is shipping was very dangerous then. And boats were constantly getting lost at sea with all hands on board and whatever they were bringing, which was often gold and silks and tea and coffee and drugs and all kinds of good stuff. So the ship owners began to pool their resources so that if one ship went down, the other ship owners would kick in and kind of help with this. So along comes the concept of life insurance, particularly when you had like one breadwinner in a family or economic loss. And what most of us are familiar with is term insurance. And it's kind of like what guys like Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey recommend. And it's basically you're paying for one benefit, which is a death benefit. So just like if that ship went down, this is if you go down or someone in your family goes down, the money that's given to you, which is tax free by the way, is given to replace that income that you would have generated. And so just like we insure ships and houses and cars, we can insure someone's economic worth and what they would produce. And by the way, there's a limit on what you can buy based on how much you make. You cannot be worth more dead than alive because people that are worth more dead than alive tend to turn up dead like at an alarming frequency. And no matter how much you might love your spouse or your brother or sister or something like that, I don't know if they're worth like 30 million dead, you might be tempted to poison them come Thanksgiving. So anyway, so then at the same time, companies begin to create permanent life insurance. So term goes for a set period of time. It's super cheap in most cases, particularly when you're young. Then they came up with this concept of cash value life insurance, which is you pay a set amount. And the analogy is like owning a house. Like the price doesn't go up, but it stays the same. But then along with that came tax benefits that wealthy families and corporations began to exploit. And I mean that in a good sense, not in a bad sense, where they went, wait a second, the IRS lets money accumulate here tax free. Now you have to remember, this existed long before IRAs and 401ks. Those are recent. When I was born, those didn't exist.
Right.
So they came out in the 70s. But prior to that, money could accumulate in a cash value life insurance plan.
Tax free, right?
And then tax free, and you could withdraw it tax free.
Right.
And so that was one of the key differences there, was that money could grow tax free, withdraw tax free. There was no IRA, there was no 401k, there wasn't anything from there. And then in the 70s is when the government created those other, what we call qualified plans.
Right.
And they're qualified because you qualify to put money in them, you qualify to take it out, you have to be a certain age, you have to take it by a certain time, all those sorts of things. So the wealthy, in many cases, or savvy upper middle class families began, and corporations began to take advantage of the tax treatment, because what happens with an IRA, you get a tax break when it goes in, or your 401k, but you pay all the tax when it comes back out on it and everything that it made. So that could be a much bigger number. Whereas with life insurance, and remember, Roth IRAs didn't exist until 1997. There was no Roth IRA. So then came the concept that myself and other people began to teach about, which is, look, this is a retirement plan. You can use this in the same way as you use a retirement plan to accumulate wealth tax-free, withdraw it tax-free, and not be subject to a lot of the same rules that you would be with a 401k or an IRA, where you really lock up or cut off your access to the money. And so I have a lot of entrepreneur clients that stuff lots of money into these and then use it to fund real estate projects or equipment purchases. And then instead of paying interest somewhere else, they pay the interest to themselves.
Right.
And so that's really the concept. I didn't mean to go off on a long-winded rant there, but that's kind of the concept of how wealthy use it. And just before I take a breath, let me give you one other thing that a lot of people may not realize. In most parts of the country, you have a Bank of America. That's a pretty common household name. And in 2017, Bank of America, their buildings, every branch office and every building that they own, including a couple skyscrapers and all their real estate holdings, totaled about $10 billion. Now, again, the number's 3 years old, but check this out. The cash value of life insurance policies that they owned, not the death benefit, but the cash value that they owned as assets on their books, was 18 billion.
Wow.
Almost double. So just to give you some idea, if you're like, yeah, but my friend says, or my plumber says this is a bad place to put money, or Dave Ramsey says, that's not true if it's set up correctly, right to that IRS maximal. Okay, rant over, I'll take a breath.
So yeah, so is it true that, like, before they changed the laws, that wealthy people, like you said, they were stuffing millions into these plans because they, like, it was tax free? Like, you could put, once you put it in, it's tax free. Once you take it out, it's tax free. So it's like, is that true that they had to change the laws because wealthy people were taking such an advantage of it?
They did. Tamara and Tefra were budget reconciliation acts in the 80s. So the 80s is when all the fun ended, right? Like, seriously. The 80s, like, AIDS came on the scene, and all these tax rules came in, like all the partying that happened in the 60s and 70s, like, kind of just came to a screeching halt. And along with that, for a lot of you that are real estate investors, holy shit, the real estate rules back then were crazy good. Like, you could put money on a property and write all of it off. And then in 86, they put an end to that. And along with it, they ended kind of the unlimited contributions to life insurance. So you could buy, now there's a ratio between how much death benefit the IRS requires you to have and how much you can put inside. And actually, your health doesn't even screw it up, because they just want to see a certain amount going towards premiums. So I'm not a whiteboard here, sorry. But down here, is the least amount that you can pay for an insurance, that's your term. If up here is the IRS max, you want to fund your policy right on that line.
Right.
And that rule came out in the 80s. Before that, you could buy a $10,000 death benefit policy and put $100,000 into it, and it would grow tax free. You could withdraw it tax free. Then the government, wanting to steer people more towards qualified plans where they'd get a tax deduction now, but pay a much bigger portion down the road, they kind of ended that party, although the rules are still fantastic. If you set it up correctly, they're just not as good as if you had a policy before that. So that's when the party ended.
Right.
These you should have been around then. We would have had a great time.
Right. Yeah, I
Back
know.
then.
But that's why I got one now, because it's just like, just having that cash value and the death benefit. So, definitely still have term, but having the cash value. What people don't understand is, just like you said, these are on like companies' balance sheets. They're on people's personal financial statements. So they're on your PFS. So people don't realize like this cash value is really worth something. So when it's time to get a loan, somebody said they're still confused. All right, we'll have to break it down some more. So
We'll go back. We got
yeah,
time.
yeah. So when it's time to get a loan, they take your cash value of this life insurance into account because it's an asset. So it's just like people need to realize that there are many different ways for you to get to financial freedom and grow your financial foundation. You are able to, have money in stocks, have money in just cash, have some of these life insurance policies, term and whole life, and you can invest in real estate and whatever other investments you want. But people just need to realize that, there is value in this, and it's not only for wealthy people. So could you like maybe break it down in a simpler form how somebody could use it? Like, let's say they wanted it to pay for their kids college in like 18 years or something.
Yeah.
What
So
would they do?
let me give you an example right now. We have several clients, but one comes to mind who's a grandparent. And Miss Chantel, I'll get to how you use it in real estate as well. But rather than putting money into a 529 plan, which one of my areas of expertise is last minute college planning. So that happens to be like in the community in San Diego. On Twitter, I do a lot more like tax and personal finance, but in town, a lot of people know me because I've been doing late stage college planning for 27 years because I didn't go to college immediately. I went back later. So what happens is 529s count against you in the financial aid formula at most schools, and at some schools they count very heavily. They're more heavily weighted. Cash value life insurance does not count at all. So it's completely exempt from the formula. So you can put money into it, let that money grow tax deferred, withdraw it tax free, and it never gets reported to the college in a way that would hurt your kids. So we have one grandpa putting in $150 a month. So by the time his kid is 18, his granddaughter is 18, he'll have put in about almost 30 something thousand because he started when she was a couple years old, like 34,000. But the policy would be worth 40, 42,000. So it didn't make huge gains, but it won't hurt them when it comes to financial aid. It can also be used as the original Roth IRA. When they created the Roth IRA, what a lot of people don't realize is this is where they got that concept from, was the way that many presidents, by the way, yes, a custodial account would count against you in the formula. What a lot of people don't realize is many of the presidents and congressmen and senators use the cash value exemptions for their own cases. What's funny is I have a lot of federal employees as clients, and they all hate paying taxes just as much as everybody else. And we tease them. We're like, come on, man, that pays you. And they're like, I don't care. They can take somebody else's money and pay me. Like, I want to pay the least possible.
Right.
So the difference, though, between cash value insurance and a Roth IRA, if it's set up properly, just think of it, they're essentially the same because one was modeled after the other. But really the key difference between the two of them is three things. One, You can put an unlimited amount of money into a cash value life insurance, whereas you cannot with a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
And we have clients that are putting $100,000 a year into this type of account. Secondly, you can move in and out of the account before you're 59 and a half.
Yep.
So if you're young, you're tying up some of this money with 401ks and things like that for decades. With cash value life insurance, you can start to access some of that cash if you need it with in a year or two after starting the account. And then the third kind of big deal is with a specific type of insurance called index universal life insurance, where you are pegged to an index, then you can get the upside of the stock market with none of the downside.
Mm-hmm.
So back to 529 plans, there was a big problem. We had a lot of clients in 2008 that had put money into these 529s. We told them not to, but I didn't meet them until after they'd done it. And then their 529s lost money, like 30, 40% of the value. And they're like, what the hell do I do now? Because my kid's supposed to go to school next year. And so we're like, okay, we figured it out. But so that's kind of the difference, is we can get that upside without the downside. We can use the money while we're working, and we can put an amount that we want, even if we make over the Roth IRA limits. You can put an amount that you want. And then the only real catch is that you want to kind of keep your premium, what you put in, the same. You can't put it in all at once. You got to put it in over 4 or 5 years. And then you can actually stop if it's set up properly and not contribute to it, or you can keep going.
Right.
So again, it's not the place for all your money. It's not the only thing you should do, but the tax benefits are huge,
Mm-hmm.
like absolutely huge, because all that growth, all that access, you never pay taxes on it. And you don't pay taxes on the death benefit either.
Right, right. So can you just explain, like, so what is your definition of setting up one of these plans properly? So I know you
Oh,
think to like the premium. I know there's a specific number you were explaining to me before.
yeah. So all it is, you do it in the inverse.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it works is the IRS says that you have to spend a certain amount of your dollar on death benefit. So what we do is set it to the absolute IRS, whatever that number is. So for instance, we do it in the inversion, meaning a client comes to me and is like, hey man, I need to do $500 a month, or I want to do $300 a month, or I want to do $5,000 a month, or I want to do this much once a year when I get my bonus. And we're like, great. So we shop it among the life insurance companies. And this is ninja here. You guys are going to like this. You shop twice for life insurance, particularly term insurance. So what you do is you want to apply with a company, and then you want to turn around, and once you're approved, see if another company will give you a better rate or a better deal. Shop twice.
Right.
So, hey, money man, what's happening, man? Just saw him pop up there. So anyway, so the proper amount is, if you want to give them $1,000 a month, based on your age and the health rating that comes back, we want to set that death benefit over here so it exactly matches $12,000 over here, $1,000 a month. Not 13,000, not 14,000, 12,000. And the way you know it's set up correctly is if you sent them $12,001, they would have to send you the $1 back, because you violated the IRS rules, and it would change the tax code. So when we do this, like, our clients end up with these super weird numbers, like, $413,000, $212 of insurance. And when I show it to them on the screen, I've never showed this to you. I'll show you next time we chat.
Yeah.
I can show you, here's the policy, and notice the IRS set the limit at $12,000.07 for that amount. So we could technically send them an extra 7 cents each year without screwing it up from a tax standpoint. That's how it's set up correctly. And there's a bunch of good companies that do this. Because a couple of people asked that. Allianz is real good, probably one of the better ones. National Life is really good, especially if you're in New York. because Allianz won't do business there. Penn Mutual's okay. Ohio National, Lafayette's okay. There's probably 20 companies that really specialize in this. And usually, if you're buying term, you're going to buy it from a totally different company than you would buy your cash value life insurance,
Mm-hmm.
because one specializes in one specializes in the other. That's kind of the way that goes.
Okay, so basically, you just want to make sure that however much you're putting in a year matches like the max that you should be putting for your death benefit by IFR
Correct.
rules. Yeah, and then that's the thing. So a lot of these places, they won't set it up properly. They'll put it to where, whether you're either underfunding it or you're funding it to where most of the money is going like to the agent because of the fees and all that stuff.
Correct.
So can you talk about kind of like fees and what people should look out for? Because I know you're the first person who actually showed me a policy that even made sense.
I know. I remember we met. Am I allowed to say where we met? We were on a 12-hour time difference when I first met you because
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
were overseas.
Taiwan. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, wait, where are you again? And what's your real name?
Yeah.
Anyway, basically, so what happens is whoever's setting this up, including me, is we're going to get compensated from the life insurance company. So when we set it up. However, if it's set up correctly, we should be compensated about a third of what would normally take place.
Hmm.
Now, you guys can cry for me and feel bad. I'll send you guys my address so you can send me like bottles of wine and whiskey and gift cards and stuff because you feel bad for me. But really, what happens is we want, because the higher the death benefit, the more the cost. Think of it as like drag. It's just drag on a policy.
Hmm.
And so what we want to do is minimize that drag on the policy, which minimizes the compensation that someone makes, but also the fees that go well beyond that.
Hmm.
And again, if you need more death benefit, you buy term insurance cheap.
Right.
You don't try to mix the two.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I see a lot of it is people try to design policies that someone will grow into,
Hmm.
meaning, hey man, we're going to set this up. You're going to give them $500 a month for 3 years. Then you're going to give them $750 a month in 3 more years. And then you're going to give them $1,000 in 3 more years. I won't do that.
Right. So you keep
Um,
yours just a set fee the entire
do
time.
500, yeah, do 500 a month. And if you send them 501, it's going to screw it up.
Hmm.
And then in 3 years, if you've got an extra $250 a month, we'll set up another one for $250 a
Right.
month. And if 5 more years, you got another $500 that you want to put towards this. Then we'll just do separate policies, because if you don't make that increase, you're going to screw up the policy. And again, it's like carrying dead weight while you're trying to run a marathon.
Right.
And someone's asking the IRS rules
Hmm.
about how much should go to the benefit. They're called 7-pay rules. And all it means is if anybody's trying to evaluate a policy, and is it efficient, not whether the company's good or not, because the illustrations aren't always exactly what's happening, but is it efficient or not, what your annual or monthly premium is should be exactly what the 7-pay premium is, which means all it means is over the first 7 years, you're not allowed to go above that in any given year. They
Mm.
should be the same. They should be, not $100 off or $1,000 off or anything. They should be exactly the
Exactly the
same.
same. So what's that called? You said the 7 year what?
7-pay rule.
Okay, 7-pay rule.
Yep, 7-pay, and it's on there. And again, if you ask,
Okay.
sometimes the insurance guys don't even know what it is. They're like, hey, what? And you're like, 7-pay, show it to me on there. When we print an illustration, it's right on there. We'll circle it. We'll be like, that's the most you can give them for that death benefit. You want to give more, we increase the death benefit. You want to give them less, we decrease the death benefit.
Right.
And by the way, when I was talking about term insurance, how you buy it both before and after. Whenever we do one of these, we start with an amount in mind, like, hey, I'm going to do $1,000 a month. And then always, 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 before we issue that policy, we're like, okay, bees or whomever, are you sure that's the amount you want to do, or do you want to change it? We can change it up or down But we want you, the way this works is we want you to stick with this number, because if you do that, this is going to kick some ass for you. And I always tell my clients, and all you guys remember this, make sure you have a number that you're comfortable with, that you know you can do for at least 5 years. That's how you make this work efficiently.
Right. Okay, so let's answer some of these questions here.
Fire away.
All right, so somebody asked, can you move money from a 529 to a cash value life insurance?
You can, but you have to pay the tax on the gain of the 529. So in other words, if you put, like we had a client today, we were talking about this for, he put in 20,000, it's now worth 30. So we left it alone. It wasn't going to hurt him because I looked at everything else they were doing. But if we moved it, he would have to pay tax on that $10,000, not the whole thing, but the $10,000. And he would have to pay a 10% excess tax. They call it a penalty, but it's really not. It's just an excess tax. So if you're thinking about doing that, make sure, I think that sounds right, that you're otherwise eligible for financial aid, because you don't want to move it if you're not. And but if you are and you're otherwise eligible for aid, we moved a guy like 80,000 at the last minute, and he had to pay 5,000 in taxes. He made 150,000 a year, but he got 20,000 a year free from his college, so it was absolutely worth it. And if he hadn't have done that, he would have never gotten that 20,000 a year.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right, cool. So somebody asked, what's the consequences if you don't set the plan up properly? Like, what are the consequences?
So what happens is nothing, as long as you keep paying into it, nothing bad happens. The policy will stay in effect. But most policies, if they're set up correctly, are going to break even around 7 or 8 years. And again, that sounds like, gee, that sucks. You have to wait that long. Well, you have cash value in there the whole time, but it's not going to show necessarily a positive return for a few years. But if you're set up incorrectly, you might be waiting 15 or 20 years, or you may never get to break even.
Right.
But if you do it the right way, then it, like you said, it sits as an asset on your balance sheet, and a profitable asset at that. So, people can send me their policies, and I can look at them and tell them if they're salvageable or not, or what they should do. But really, that's the reason. Like I said, you just want to keep them separate. If you need death benefit, buy term insurance. If you need assets, get cash value life insurance and set it to that IRS minimum.
Right. So for people who don't know, term insurance is basically just it's a life insurance for a certain amount of time. So like 20 years, or I don't know what the typical terms are. What are the typical terms?
10, 15, 20, 30, 40 if you're young enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty cheap. So like you can get term insurance for like you can get term insurance depends on your age and whatever health issues you have, maybe like $20 a month. Versus
Yep.
you go into whole life, it's going to cost you more. You get into universal life, it'll cost you more for the death benefit. So that's why Ron's saying get the cheaper term, because you'll have it for like 20, 30 years, and you'll only pay like maybe $20, $30 a month. So that's the difference.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly right. And remember, if you're thinking this is the most you can pay, this is the least, we never want to be anywhere in between. We want to be here or here. Again, you can control what you're paying, and then a good person will set that death benefit so they match perfectly.
Okay, and then somebody asked, do you have to put in a certain amount to qualify for these plans?
No, so the lowest one I have right now is $150 a month. I have someone doing $150 a month. The most I have is someone doing $100,000 a year. And I have everything in between. I got $40,000 a year, and I got $500 a month, and I got $1,500 a month. So really, you can design that and set it however you want. And like I said, just make sure it's an amount that you're comfortable with, that you can fund, and it's set up right and with a good company, and you're solid. You're
Okay.
totally solid.
Okay.
Do you mind if I jump in and answer this one right here from Miss Chantel Bees
Yeah.
about difference between universal and whole? So whole life was the original version by like companies like New York Life and stuff like that, which is a solid company, by the way. And New York Life happens to have the best long-term care insurance on the planet. So for any of you that are like middle-aged and have older parents that you want to get this for, those are the guys to go with. And I don't represent them because they're a captive company, but they're solid. So I have one girl that I send all my long-term care cases to. Whole life is just permanent life insurance with a fixed interest rate and fixed terms. And so think of it probably, I guess the best analogy I can give you is probably closest to like a 30-year fixed mortgage, kind of low interest rate, and they can adjust it within bounds. That's one type of insurance, permanent insurance. Universal life insurance is a little more flexible, but the insurance company still sets the interest rate. And again, any one of these can be set up wrong or they can be set up right. Index universal life insurance is where there is a separate index, so it's not the insurance company that sets the rate, it's the outside index, and you can move around in those indexes one year to the next. I've been doing this 30 years, and the policies, index universal life insurance really didn't come out until about 20, 22 years ago. And when I look at all my policies, including the ones that I own, consistently over the last 20 plus years, index universal life insurance has performed the best. Even though if the index loses money, you just get a zero, you don't lose money. Because interest rates are so low that insurance companies on the universal life and whole life can't seem to quite keep up. Now, those policies haven't performed badly for my clients. They just haven't performed quite as good as we expected, but close. Whereas every single one of my IUL index policies has performed better than we showed our clients it was going to, without exception. I mean, if they've been around, we might have one off year, and if it's their first year, like, I mean, it sucks, it'll be fine. But if we look at 5, 10, 15-year returns, they're all above what we showed our clients.
Yeah, which makes sense because isn't it like an index fund that does yours track the S&P or is it just like general stock index?
Everybody, so they give you choices.
Mm.
So some of the bigger ones, like an Allianz, gives you like 18 choices every year that you can pick among, and you can put like, just like a 401k at work, you can put 20% in this one, 30% in this one, 15% in this one. Or if you feel like, man, I think the market's going to suck this year, you can take like a 4.5% interest rate for the year. So index universal life insurance can do what whole life can do by giving you a steady rate of return, but whole life can't do always what index universal life insurance can do. So there you go.
Okay. And then somebody asked, what are your thoughts on mutual companies?
So there's a guy that some of you may know if you guys are familiar, because there's a couple guys on Twitter that really promote him, named Nelson Nash. Have you heard of him, Bees?
No, I
Have you ever heard of Nelson?
mutual company.
Okay, Nelson was like, he was a buddy of mine. We used to speak at a lot of the same conferences. Nelson was like, if for any of you guys who know who Nelson is, we used to speak at the same conferences, so we'd always get taken out to dinner by the speakers the night before. And I think 5 of us one night spent about $2,500 at Nobu in Las Vegas. One of the 5 included Nelson. He'd never had sake bombs before. He was like in his late 70s or early 80s. So we had to carry him out of there. But Nelson wrote this book called The Infinite Banking Concept. And the infinite banking concept went through and explained kind of how you could use life insurance as a bank. And so, and one of the things that he said is you have to take a mutual company, because the way a mutual company works is rather than being owned by stockholders, it's owned by policy owners. Mm-hmm. So if there's a profit each year, it gets kicked back to the policy owners, not the stockholders. Mm. So on a whole life company or a universal life company, this makes a big difference. However, on the index universal side of things, it really doesn't seem to make a big difference. And we found we can get equally good performance from a mutual company or a stockholder company. And in some cases, we can do better with a stockholder company because we can get a higher rating because they can be more capitalized. So I own both, and I don't have a preference one way or the other on how it works. But that's really the difference. So for whole life, makes a big deal. For the other stuff, not quite as much.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get people onto like infinite banking. That's why I've been trying to introduce more people to this so they can, start to understand what this is and how they can use it for their advantage. Somebody said, what are good questions to ask when vetting someone who's helping you set up a policy?
I think the first thing is I would ask someone, first of all, I've always found that references are kind of BS because the two times I've gotten scammed in my life as a younger adult, both of them had impeccable references that turned out to be fraudulent. I mean, they were just straight criminals. One guy was a pool builder. He showed me pools that he didn't build. He was like, oh yeah, look at my work right here. And I found out after we were in a lawsuit with him, he didn't build that pool. Another guy did. So I don't really go crazy over references. What I would say is I would ask them to explain to you. So remember when I explained like minimum, maximum, do one, do the other. If you know that, you know more than 90% of the insurance agents out there. I'm not making that up. Most have no idea how max funding works. So I would ask them those sorts of questions. Are you familiar with the infinite banking concept? Do you practice that? Do you believe, here's a phrase for you, LERPs. What do you think about LERPs? And it just stands for life insurance as a retirement plan,
Hmm.
which is probably the biggest thing we do in my practice with life insurance. Like I said, we do a lot of other things. But it's like, hey, and let me give you an example. If someone's turning around and putting $19,000 a year, $18,000 a year in their 401k, we're like, how much of that are you getting matched on? If they're only getting matched on 4%, we're like, do the 4%, take the difference, pay the tax on it, and put it into life insurance. And I can prove to you that you will get a bigger payout and it will be tax free over the exact same dollars going into that 401k. I can prove it. And even using like stupid rates of return like Dave Ramsey would come up with, like 12% or 15% or whatever they come up with. I'll be like, just watch, let me prove it to you.
Yeah.
So I would ask about that, like, hey, how will I know if this policy is set up efficiently? Someone should be able to explain to you the 7-pay rule, and you control what goes in, I control the death benefits so they match and hit the 7-pay rule. You should be able to see that policy is at break even somewhere in the 7th, 8th, 9th year, somewhere in there. That's what you're looking for. And I'd say you're looking for someone to turn around and really know what, I mean, that's it. Just know what they're talking about. So I'd find out, how did you learn this? And there should be names like Nelson Nash or Don Blanton or Tom Hegna, or infinite banking or any of those sorts of things that they can reference that they can do, that they're familiar with. So that's the way I'd play it there.
Yeah, like I said, you just have to watch out for those agents that are literally just trying to line their own pockets. So, because I got
Yeah,
with somebody like that when I was 22. Somebody was just like they were brand new to it and they were just trying to line their own pockets. So you just have to watch out for it. If you look at the policy, it's not going to make any sense to you. You're going to say this doesn't make sense. Why would I put this much money in? Barely has any cash value, barely grows. You'll be able to tell very quickly. I use Ron's company. I use Ron and his company for my index universal life insurance policy. So, if you want somebody trusted, I just use Ron, honestly. He knows what he's doing. So
I agree with you. No, I'm totally kidding. Like, but
yeah,
you're welcome to reach out to me, like or we can review what you're doing. We're
right.
happy to do it. And we're pretty fair. If we're like, yeah, that was pretty good. You like the guy. Yeah, it's your brother. Okay, do it there. Or, ooh, this doesn't look that good. Like, I don't know how to say this, but you might want to kick your brother at Thanksgiving. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on here.
the line in his pockets. Yeah. So, Kay Alexander, they asked, is a cash value policy something you set up after a Roth or 401k or before? Like, should you set it up before or after you have a Roth
All right,
401k?
here's my formula. This is my formula for success. I've run the math 1,000 different ways, so let me tell you what I personally recommend. The order that someone does it. Say for someone just starting out. Number one is if your company has a match, take the match first. That's always the first place to start. Then, but nothing more than that. Because remember, you're not saving taxes, you're postponing them. That's all you're doing. And you're not postponing just paying the tax, but you're postponing calculating the tax. And it's when most of us are taking our retirement plans, and that even includes me, who's closer than probably a lot of you, um, those tax rates are going to be higher at some point, and they will not be a little bit higher, they will be substantially higher.
Mm-hmm.
And to give you some idea, when when George Bush took office, we were $5 trillion in debt as a country. So we had Bush for 8 years, Obama for 8 years, and then Trump for 4 years, and who knows who we have for the next 4 years? We'll find out soon enough. But in that 20-year span, so a Republican president, a Democrat president, and I don't even know that Trump qualifies as a Republican, even though he ran as one. Our national debt went to $27 trillion. So it went up by almost 20 trillion. That means we're writing IOUs that they're going to have to collect on taxes. So that's the reason we don't want to put more money than your match in your 401k ever. That's like there's a few exceptions if you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then the next thing that you want to do if you don't have an emergency fund is get an emergency fund. And by the way, if you're starting out, like I really do recommend B's book on the financial starter kit. It's awesome. So, oh, there you go. I don't have a hard copy. I
Oh,
gotta
I
get
need
me
to
a
send
hard
you one.
copy.
I'll send you one.
All right, I'm gonna let you do that. Thank you. I want it autographed and everything. But I have the electronic version, but it's nothing like having a real book. I love
Right.
real books. Anyway, then once your emergency fund is set up, if your income is stable, then I would go cash value life insurance for the accessibility. Meaning if you can commit to, some number that you're like, yeah, I know I can do this. If you're unsure, then I would go to a Roth IRA because there is no adverse consequences if you forget to fund your Roth IRA or you can't fund your Roth IRA. Now, life insurance is a little more flexible, meaning I've had clients skip a year or two. I've had to do that. I just dumped a chunk of money into one of my life insurance policies that like 3 years ago, I got a little behind on funding. Then once that's set, then it would come back around and probably open up a brokerage account so you have access to that money. And as a single person, you can make like $52,400. And if you go to sell long-term capital gains, you pay zero on the capital gains in there. If you're married, you can make $104,800 and not pay any taxes when you sell stocks in that account. And then I would repeat the cycle. I'd come back if my income grows and it's sporadic. I'll throw that money into a Roth IRA. I'll add another life insurance policy. I'll put more in my brokerage account. You want to start investing in real estate or Bitcoin, you can do that later. But finances shouldn't be complicated. You don't need 107 products to be diversified. You need a few of them that are properly set up, quality, not quantity. So that's the way I do it.
Okay, and then somebody asked, what about capital gains taxes?
Okay, so on life insurance, there isn't any. But one of the disadvantages of 401ks is, and IRAs is when you get to withdraw them, they get taxed just like income. So anyway, on that's a higher rate right now in our country than capital gains, which are 0, 15, or 20% max. So you can pay up to 37% of your income, but you can only pay 20% on long-term capital gains. So that's why, again, even outside of that 401k, we don't tell our clients to put all their money in life insurance. That'd be malpractice. So we're like, start a brokerage account and I practiced exactly what I preach. I put all as much, I had a company that used to match me $2 to one up to 12% of my pay. They got 12% of my pay.
Mhm.
I was an independent, but I did a lot of work with them, so they threw me on the deferred comp. I put the rest of my money into cash value life insurance, properties, or brokerage accounts. And then if the market dropped or there was a killer deal on a rental property, I'd pull money from my cash value insurance to buy that property or buy that stock or buy into the market. And then when I made my profit back, I'd put that money right back into the life insurance.
Okay, so can you explain that really quickly? So I think that's where people don't understand. So how do
Yeah.
you use your universal life insurance policy to invest in the real estate or like take advantage of any opportunities you see? Like so I don't think most people know that you can just take a loan from it and pay yourself back. And I think you're only responsible for the interest, right? Or
Yeah, so
yeah.
here's, well, and you're kind of not even responsible for that.
Mm,
So here's one of the advantages. We make a list of 12 things that our clients would look for in the quote perfect investment. And I actually explain this to every client that comes in the door. I'm like, here's the 12 things. You want tax deferred growth, tax free distribution, competitive rate of return. And then we go through three or four others like safe, no risk, right? If we were going to be perfect, and then deductible contributions and access. So, for instance, 401ks, here's the problem with a 401k loan it's limited to $50,000.
yep.
Your company has to allow it.
Hmm.
You have to pay it back according to their schedule,
Hmm.
which is generally 5 years, I
5 years.
think.
Yep.
And if you lose your job,
Yep.
you have to immediately pay it all back, or you get taxed on it. So at the worst time, when you don't have money because your income just cut off, you have to pay it back. With cash value life insurance, you can borrow up to about 90% of what's in there. You can, and you do not borrow from it, you borrow against it. So let me explain what that means, because that one's cool. Your account's here with $100,000 in it. And you can borrow, let's say you needed to borrow 50,000 for a down payment on a rental property. You can have that money generally in 3 days, 3 or 4 days. Because you
Very
just
little.
call them up and be like, I got a deal, it's time sensitive, here's my banking information. And like we'll do it for our clients because we know everybody at the life insurance companies that we work with. So like, hey Joan, we need this, like my client needs this now, or he's gonna lose this deal, or she's gonna lose this deal. So like, oh, okay, we'll get right on it. Ron, we'll have it tomorrow for him, or we'll have it in 2 days. So anyway, now what happens is your 100,000 is still earning interest, the whole 100,000. You owe interest on the 50 at generally 5, 4.5, or 5.5%. But we have clients actually making money where they're making 7 or 8 over here. Now, occasionally they make zero too,
Hmm.
and they're only paying 5%. So on that 100,000, they might make 7,000 for the year because they made it on the whole thing. And on the 50, they only owe 2,500. So they not only made money on the 50 they didn't borrow, they made money on the 50 that they did. And you can pay it back on your terms whenever you want. So there is no limit. You can even not pay them. Now, the interest is going to continue to accrue. If you're doing this for retirement, you probably don't want to do that long term, but you can. So you can be like, no, I'm not going to pay you guys anything for a year. All right, here's the whole amount back. Or, hey, I'm going to set myself up on a schedule like a 401k. Oh, shoot, I just lost my job. I'll stop making these payments for a while. In fact, I'll go take a little bit more money out.
Yep.
Unlike the 401k rules, which are a lot more restrictive.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's what people they're not aware of. They're not aware of like the power that you have with these policies. Like you literally become your own bank. If you need money,
That's
you
right.
can get it. If you need a lot of money, you can get it and you pay it back on your own terms. And any interest that you are paying, it goes back into your policy, not into some bank account, like not anywhere else. It goes right back into your policy. So you're able to access your capital very quickly and you can invest it. So just like Ron said, if somebody needed 50,000, and say they wanted to do a real estate flip, they needed the 50K, they got it out of their policy, took the loan, they went and got that property that they needed, flipped it, and let's say they made another 50,000 on top. They put the 50 back into their life insurance policy, and now you just made $50,000 extra, and you still have the 100,000 in your life insurance policy, and you probably
Exactly.
paid nothing. Just like Ron said, you could be like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this flip, taking this money out. I'm not paying you all anything," and you just got interest-free flip for nothing. I mean, just paying into your own life insurance policy. You didn't have to pay any hard money lender. You didn't have to do anything like that. That's how the wealthy stay wealthy. That's how they get wealthy. They're taking this money out tax free. They're putting it back.
My buddy,
Hmm.
B's my buddy, Don Blanton. He's a big old pot-bellied Southern boy, good old Southern Baptist, devil's liquors, never touched this man's lips. And he lives next door to Waka Flocka Flame. And Gucci Mane lives like right around the corner from him. And so he is like the local bank in the community.
Hmm.
So everybody from his church, when they want to buy a property, like he goes by Don Buddy. Like literally, that's what you call it. In my phone, he's Don Buddy. And you pick up the phone, hey buddy, who's your buddy? Like Don, you're my buddy. He's really a good guy. But he's the local loan shark.
Yep.
He's like, so when people need money, he's like, now I'm gonna have to borrow money from this policy at 5.5%. So you're gonna have to pay me a lot more than 5.5% on this house, and you're gonna have to put me on this house until you pay this note off. So he becomes the hard money
Yep.
lender,
Yep.
and I don't think he quite charges hard money rates, but he
But he's still
loans
making money. I mean, and it's
10 or 12%.
yeah.
So he's making money on his policy over here, and he's making money on the loan over here. And then he's like, I'm like, has anybody ever not paid you? He's like, buddy, you know the answer to that. I'm like, they've all paid you, huh? And he's like, yep, they sure have. So there's a lot that you can do when you start looking at some of these concepts. And again, it's not that life insurance is the be all end all, because you absolutely should have other investments. What it is it has a unique combination of no risk. Again, you can't lose due to market conditions, and tax freedom, if you will, where you can move in and out of it without your company saying what you can do or the IRS saying what you can do, that make it a good storage facility for money that you're not deploying on a business venture or anything, and a great place to store your money long term without any risk, particularly if you're an entrepreneur. Because a business owner, entrepreneur, real estate investor, all of it, you're always involved in risk. This is the place to store your safe money that isn't exposed to risk. And then when you retire, you just call the person that set it up for you or the company, and you figure out how much tax-free income you can take without ever exhausting the policy. So it becomes an income stream like Social Security, except you don't pay any taxes on it.
Right. Yeah. I was about to say something. Oh yeah. So with these policies, if you're sued, are people allowed to tap into these policies? Like if you're sued, are they like exempt from lawsuit?
In most states, yes. Unfortunately, in my state, no.
Hmm.
So California has pretty restrict rules, but like 40 something other states that aren't California. Of course, we also have a curfew now. We can't go to the gym. Although I found Big Lou's gym where I'm going right when we're done here, no mask, come on in. Big Lou's been arrested, like Big Lou. Anyway, in fact, he's got a big poster on his wall of him getting the arrest with some scripture underneath it. And I guess the cops he's just like, keep arresting me. I'm going to keep coming back and opening up the gym. Like, so they're like, all right, Big Lou, just stay out of our way. He actually ran for mayor of the town next to us. He didn't win though. But where was I going with all that? Oh, 40 something states, just not stupid California, will allow you, it is completely exempt from creditors like a pension is. California just happens to be one of the few that does not. You can keep like 10 or $20,000 in it, but a creditor can come after, but in most states, no.
Yeah, and I mean that's powerful. Being able to put money into account where if you get sued, nobody can touch it. So it's like a legal way to hide money to where nobody can actually ever get to it. Which is why the wealthy stuff so much into it. So I don't know if you saw when I was tweeting about. I think he's the Michigan head coach. He has a life
Harbaugh.
insurance. Yeah, he has that life insurance policy. He's a $2 million premium, and that's how he gets paid as part of his salary.
Yeah, they do something kind of cool there. It's called Split Dollar. And he's the one, it's been around forever. He's the one that made it famous, actually. And what's funny is one of my clients here was Jim and John Harbaugh's hockey coach when they were little boys. And he called me up. He's like, "Hey, man, you know Jim Harbaugh?" And I'm like, "I know of him." And he's like, "Well, I know him and I want to do what he's doing." And then he's like, "Hey, do you want to call him and say hi to him?" And I'm like, "Not really. I don't know what to say to him." But what they did is something called split dollar. So if you have a company, and my buddy had a company that did business in China, and they owed him a bunch of money, and he presented this as a solution. So this may or may not apply to a lot of you, but here's what Michigan is doing for Jim Harbaugh. Is it Jim or is it John? It's one of the Harbaugh guys. They're lending him $2 million a year in compensation that goes directly into a life insurance account that they own and he owns. The death benefit goes to his family. And after about 10 or 12 years, the policy, let's say they put 20 million in it, $2 million a year for 10 years, but the policy is going to be worth 25 or 27 million, somewhere in there. Then they're going to take out their 20 million, they'll get it back, and he gets left with a policy that's got $7 million of cash in it that's tax free to him. And the only thing that Harbaugh has to be responsible for is there's some, I can't think of the name, it's like PS 152. That's probably not it, but it's some number that represents the value of the term insurance that would go to his family. So it's like a few $100s he has to pay tax on, or a few $1,000s that he has to pay tax on, and then they can even gross that up. So it's kind of complicated, but for those of you that have like big businesses where you want to make a benefit for one of your employees, or you want to benefit for yourself, or you want your corporation to do with you, it's called Split Dollar, the Harbaugh plan. You can look it up. It's pretty simple to set up. It really isn't that hard. It just takes a little bit of work, and we've done it. So if you want some expertise on that, you can reach out to us. Again, most of us are just going to be doing $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month, $300 a month. But does have its uses.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, because I said we were going to talk about mortgage secrets, somebody said they wanted to know about that. So could we just talk a little bit about your philosophy on mortgages? Like, you say mortgages are like, I forgot what you say. Something about your income, like you mortgage
Well, I
off
can
your
tell you.
income.
So here's what it is, Bees. I know exactly what you're referring
Yeah.
to. A mortgage is not a loan on your house.
Mm-hmm.
It is a loan against your income secured by your house,
Mm-hmm.
collateralized by your house. And if any of you guys that have ever bought a house in your life, you know this is true. You got to send them this many pages of financial disclosures and forms and pay stubs and tax returns. And then when that gets all done, they send somebody to drive by your house and be like, "Yep, looks like a house, looks good to me." And they keep going. The income is what they're most concerned about. And what we always try to teach our clients is that there's three types of money. There's accumulated money, the money you've already amassed, like your money that's in your bank accounts and your investments and your 401ks. There's lifestyle money, which is the money that you spend every day and every month living. And then there's transferred money, which is money you're losing unknowingly and unnecessarily. And mortgages are the biggest areas that people lose money on without realizing it, because they don't understand how the money works. And so I'll give you the short answer. And Bees, I've got time. So if you want me to explain it now, if you're like, that's enough, and you want to do a whole nother one of these,
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
just on mortgages,
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
then I'll go into depth on it.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys should demand that I be brought back. Demand it, right? Like, seriously, because I'll come back. But I can do a whole hour just on mortgages,
Yeah,
Bees.
we're gonna have to
And
do a whole hour on mortgages.
but let me give you the short version. Finance your house for as long as you can at a fixed rate and put the least amount down. And that will do two things. Over time, you will absolutely save more money. And even if you want to pay your house off in 15 years, you can do it faster by taking a 30-year mortgage, investing the difference, and you'll probably pay it off in 12 or 13 years.
Okay.
and you retain control of that money. Put the least amount down, and again, because it earns no interest, you can't access it. And again, I will do a whole hour for your people, or 45 minutes, or whatever you want, just on mortgages and why. And I'll bring my whiteboard and my sock puppets, and I'll prove it to you guys. I will absolutely prove it. Even the most Dave Ramsey of Dave Ramsey lovers among you will see the line on the mortgages and why I'm right. And he's wrong. And it's not even that I'm right. It's the math's right.
Yeah, I mean it's
I,
the math. People don't understand.
I just did the math a
Yeah,
hundred different ways till Sunday. And I'm like, wait a second. In every scenario, in every single scenario, you're better off financing for a longer term financially.
yeah.
Now, emotionally, you may be like, look, man, I want to have my house paid off. Like, okay, do it. But just know that you're doing it for emotional reasons to feel good, not for financial ones.
Right. So I want to say it again so people understand. So what Ron is saying is that you should always do a 30-year mortgage and not a 15-year mortgage because and you should also put down the least amount of money because when you get a 15-year mortgage, your payment is much higher. And you with the 30-year mortgage, you'll be able to invest the difference. So let's say you have a 30-year mortgage and the mortgage is $1,500. And then compared to that, if you went and got a 15-year mortgage, your mortgage will probably be about $3,000. If you took that $1,500 with the 30-year mortgage and invested the difference between the two, which is again 1,500, that $1,500 invested for the full 30 years, you will always come out on top with the 30-year mortgage versus the 15-year mortgage. People just get the 15 because they think like, oh yeah, I want to have it paid off as soon as possible, but you're spending more money. You're always going to be better off. Get the 30-year, invest the difference. But the main part is you have to be disciplined to invest the difference. So a lot of people, you'll get the 30 and then you're like, oh, okay, well now I have an extra 1,500. I can do
Woo!
whatever I want with it. Like, no, you have to invest it. That's the only way it's going to make sense if you are considering 15 versus 30.
Exactly. And one other thing, this math applies these, even if you're getting a lower interest rate on the 15-year mortgage versus the 30. So have me back on,
Yeah.
seriously.
No,
I'll
no,
go
yeah, I'm
through
bringing
all
it back.
that. Yeah, just hit me up. I'm around on Fridays. I usually, I'm just cleaning up in the office and stuff. So anytime. The people
Okay.
demand it, Beast. They
Yeah, I know.
want me
Everybody
back.
everybody wants you to come back. So yeah, so sorry people, I have to catch a flight. So I mean we could
Yeah, and I
probably
got a
go for
client
like
that was a few
five more
minutes late
minutes.
for. We could.
Yeah, we could go for like
Next
five
time
more minutes. Hmm?
I'm gonna bring vodka martinis and I'm just sit and drink the whole time. We'll sit here all afternoon. Catch
We'll
some
have to
Uber
do that
home.
in 2021. I'm not drinking for the rest of this year. So
Oh my, good for you. All right, we'll do the happy hour in 2021. Have me back for mortgage stuff whenever you got a slot. Just let me know, okay?
okay, okay. And then somebody has one more question. They said, does this still work out with the PMI? Like if you had PMI on it?
It does. There's a guy that follows me on Twitter that I follow. His name's Ian. And Ian knows how to work the PMI. Like I'm just a numbers guy.
Right.
So I'm not a mortgage guy. Now I have an investment. I do a lot. I do tax work for clients. I do all that stuff. But the mortgage is the one thing like I don't come anywhere near other than advising. But Ian is a mortgage guy and he knows how to get around the PMI rules. And so Ian, I'll find out how he does it before we chat again. But Ian's the guy like on Twitter that I'm like, just go talk to Ian, like he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
I think his name's Ian. But anyway, so he's a good dude. And every time there is one of these, he jumps in and he's like, oh yeah, this is how you get around the PMI. If you need to put 20% down to get PMI out of your life and you don't talk to Ian, again, I'd run the math because you'd really be surprised that even paying PMI, you still might retain more control of your money and come out ahead. But we got to at least look at the math if we figure in PMI into the equation.
Yeah, that's the part where a lot of people don't understand. You want to keep control of your cash. Some people are like, oh, I want to just pay everything cash. But I mean, this
Mm.
debt is so cheap right now. You can get a mortgage for less than inflation. You can get a mortgage for like 2.5%.
And the definition of debt in my office is any obligation that you couldn't pay off except by earning more money. So if you have a house that's worth 400,000 and you owe 300,000 on it, yes, you have a mortgage on it, a liability. You are not in debt because you have more assets than liabilities, and we could sell that house tomorrow,
Uh-huh.
and you'd walk with $100,000 less realtors commissions and transfer taxes and all that other stuff. But the point is, you're in debt if you have no assets
Mm-hmm.
and you go and buy, and rack up a bunch of credit card debt.
And
Yes,
buy a
you're in
bunch
debt.
of
If you own a
cars.
home with a mortgage, you're not in debt.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right, we can't make you late for your flight. You got any other quick questions?
No, no other quick questions. So yeah, so thanks for coming on, Ron. Can you just
Oh,
let
my
everybody
pleasure.
know where they can find you at?
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter at Ron Caruthers because I'm you can send me stuff here. If you guys look at my profile, you'll see, I think I last posted here like a year ago. Although I'm going to start being on Instagram a little more. So send me a message here, hit me up on Twitter. My email's Ron at Ron Caruthers. Just spell my name right, Caruthers. And on my email, there's no O. It's just Ron Caruthers, Ron at Ron Caruthers. We had to put the O here because somebody else got Ron Caruthers first. So anyway, Bees, have a safe flight, all right?
Thank you so much. Yeah, so everybody,
Perfect.
if you need
Oh,
any more financial literacy help, or you need to know more about home loans, life insurance, credit cards, financial literacy in general, check out my book, Financial Starter Kit. The link is in my bio. So thanks everybody for coming out again. Thanks, Ron.
thanks for having me. Thanks for the good questions. See you guys later. Bye,
Yeah.
Bees. Fly
Bye.
safe.
Thanks, you too.